Welcome to the Not Superheroes Cause Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundations for our families, be present for our kids, and combat generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as fathers to what our favorite thing to barbecue is. Hello, I'm Sean Laurie. I hope you guys are having an amazing, blessed day today. Oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited for today's episode. But before we dive into it, make sure you share, subscribe, tell a friend. You guys know I appreciate the feedback so much. You guys know I've been really just focused, locking in on the different things I've been telling y'all about. But we back at it, man, and I'm excited to have this amazing man, Cecil, on, man.
Yes,
He's
sir.
I don't know, like he's one of those people, y'all, that I feel like literally whatever he puts his mind to, he's gonna accomplish. Because that's how it be seeming from afar. He just be like really locked in whatever he wants to do. So I'm excited to have him on. But how are you today, bro? I'm just rambling on, bragging about you. How are
Good.
you?
No, you're fine, man. I'm good, man. I'm blessed. I'm alive. I'm sane. All the things. But we all got what we got going on. But at the end of the day, I'm good, man, and pleasure to be here talking, chopping it up with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So the reason why, guys, I had him, or I asked him to come on, and he was gracious enough to be on with me, y'all, because I saw him make this video that I thought was amazing, to be honest. He was just diving into, you know, people are quick, right? People judge our kids regardless. Let's be honest, right? Don't matter. People will judge our kids, but it seemed like, I think he was like dropping off his kids, or you were dropping off your son at school, and people are looking, or whatever people are doing,
Yeah.
bro. And so I
So
want to ask you, what was that?
no, I was gonna explain the video. So
Yeah, go
quick,
ahead.
real quick. So pretty much, what I was talking about in the video was, and I'm learning this like in real time, even for myself, how to handle myself in those situations. A lot of times people, they're still not used to or accustomed to children having a disability, right? For those who don't know, I have a 6-year-old son who is nonverbal, has autistic symptoms, so he classifies under as having a disability, and so sometimes in a public setting, it could be a store, gas station, a mall, whatever the case may be. You can run across people who they're not used to, or they're not comfortable with being around a kid who, because they're nonverbal kids tend to be loud. When people think nonverbal, they think quiet. No, it's the quiet, it's the opposite. Especially if they want to talk, want to express themselves. My kid is loud. He has a falsetto tone. He will groan, moan, yell, whatever it is. That does not mean, though, that he's in danger. It doesn't mean that he's hurt. It doesn't mean that he's mad. And a lot of times I run across people who, they hear that or they see that, and then they look like, what's wrong, or judgmental, if you will, and look like something's wrong, or he's weird, or what are you doing as a parent? And in the video, I was expressing that, like, people who are raising
Yeah.
nonverbal kids or autistic kids, don't don't look at them. If something happens, don't look at it like something is wrong, because a lot of times these kids are just trying to express themselves. They just don't have the vocabulary, and they don't have the tools to do so. But that doesn't mean that they won't be kids. That doesn't mean that they're still not going to use something to express themselves. And so part of the frustration that I realize that I have dealing with it is realizing people just don't have the temperament or the grace to
Mm.
assess a situation properly, ask why first, instead of other things, or instead of pointing the finger. Hopefully, I wish for parents or adults to let it spark your curiosity and not really spark your judgment. That's one of the biggest things I
Mm.
feel like, and I can't speak for all parents, but I think I can speak for a lot of parents who raising kids with disabilities. Like, that's probably one of the top things that we ask, is hopefully it sparks your curiosity and not always your judgment or your looks or anything of that nature. So that's kind of what I've experienced recently, dealing with the situation that I have to as a dad.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Mhm.
that makes sense, bro. It honestly does. I was gonna ask you, actually, like, what, you know, what when obviously, like you say, you're navigating through it, you're realizing some
Mhm.
people are just uneducated, or don't know, or judging, or whatever the case is. So
Yeah.
for you, what has your son taught you about patience, communication, and love?
Wow.
I know that's loaded.
I
My
think
blood.
it is very loaded, but I like it. I love it. The biggest thing that I feel like my son Jaden has taught me is to simplify love. And what that looks like is a lot of times, I think when it comes to that, we tend to overcomplicate things, aka we perform a lot. We try to overachieve. We try to do all these things to prove something to somebody or prove something to ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we still gotta love ourselves, right? So when it comes to that, even putting ourselves in that perspective, I think too many times we try to tell ourselves something or to perform to make us feel like we belong or feel like we're something or feel confident in something, when in reality we just have to be whatever being looks like
Mm,
to you. And so for me, Jaden, my son Jaden, has, at the end of the day, he just wants me to be. I'm realizing he just wants to be present. You can have everything set up the way you want to. You could buy him his favorite food. You could do all that stuff. But if you're not showing him what it looks like to just be present, not just with him, but also with yourself, then they're going to follow suit and do whatever it is that you do. You know what I'm saying? As a dad, we obviously we set the examples, seen and unseen, of what our kids do. And I've even realized in learning, he's 6, and so he's growing up, and I'm realizing even for myself, like I have to really discipline myself and my habits and what I do, how I eat, whatever it is, because he's watching. Disability or not, he is copying. And
100.
the thing that I have to make sure I monitor, and but also I'm learning too in real time, is when it comes to love and patience, like the one thing I did struggle with, I'll say this, the one thing I did struggle with before, and we talked about it offline, was the fear of failure. As a dad, I didn't want my kid to fail. I didn't want myself to fail as a dad. And so what I learned, that he was nonverbal and there was some stuff, wrong, it put another level of unknown pressure, unprovoked pressure that I put on myself. Nobody did anything, but I put this unnecessary pressure on myself to try to get something right, to make sure that, okay, he's going through this. I got to make sure that things are set up right. I got to do this right. I got to make sure if he's get mad or if he gets angry, I got to nip it in the bud. And it's just like you're doing too much and not doing nothing. Like you're not actually showcasing patience and love. When you do that, you actually get quicker results. And also understand, and one thing that I can say that I don't think I can, with boldness I can say I did not get growing up, was the room to be a kid. I think too many times,
Mm,
especially as dads, we can be guilty in trying to correct something too fast, or getting our kids to do XYZ the way we want it, and we need it done now. We didn't clean this, do that, all this stuff. When sometimes if they mess up, if they break a cup, if they fall, or whatever it is, understanding that kids will be kids, no matter if they have a disability or not.
mm,
And too many times where when they do have a disability, we feel like we have to like make sure everything is squared away, nice, crisp, has to look pretty, all this stuff. And it's just like, you're doing a lot. And the kid don't even care about that. He just trying to figure out, can we play? Can we do this? Can I do this? Can I eat? Drop my headphones, excuse me. Can we eat XYZ? And that's that. So being able to learn love and patience through my son has been an ongoing process, because the root of failure, the fear of failure, is still being exited, if you will, for lack of better terms. It's still being uprooted. Not just as a dad, but as a man. The fear of failure, the fear of being accepted, to be transparent. But I think most of all, more importantly, it just starts with us. Long story short, it does start with us. Do you love yourself? Do you care about yourself first? Are you being truthful with yourself? Where you're at and how you're doing. If you do that, then how you handle your kids and how you handle people will be a little bit more easier, because now you're more secure in
mm.
yourself.
No, I like that, bro. And I feel like, one, at least I can speak for me and a lot of the other men I know, we're constantly in the fear of failing, right? Like, even if you
Always.
don't
Yep.
have kids, right? A lot of times, we're second guessing ourselves. And then when you have kids, you know, you don't want your kids to be judged. You want your kids
Hmm.
to be valued, to be loved, to be seen, right? And so that's something that I battle with, especially my youngest. So I want to ask you, bro, like, how do you make sure his voice is being heard, even though he doesn't communicate verbally.
Another good question. Another one for me is understanding that not everything that he says or tries to say is negative. Like, case in point, if he's frustrated or he's mad about something. I used to be the dad that want to correct the emotion, but when you're trying to correct the emotion, you're not really understanding the root. When you're trying to correct the emotion, you're ignoring the posture, you're ignoring the root of the matter of why he's doing such a thing. And I think it's fair to say a lot of us dads, and I think I can fairly say black dads, we're so used to not showing emotion. We're so used to being told not to show this, not to show XYZ, but to do XYZ. And so what I'm trying to get my son to exhibit is being okay with expressing his frustrations and not him feeling like I'm gonna come down on him if he cries or come down on him if he's frustrated about something. Now, there's a difference in if you told him something or told him to do something or whatever it is, and he's frustrated because you told him to do something. That's different. You know what I'm saying? You got to handle that the way you need to handle that. But if he's
Yeah.
frustrated about something, and especially if you don't know why, inquire. You got to inquire about that. You got to figure that out. It may take a longer process. In my scenario, he can't speak. He's nonverbal. So, or I should say that he can't say words. He can speak, but he can't say
Yeah.
words. So in my scenario, it may be a longer process, and that's where patience is a lot. Grace has to come because I can't get it right the first time all the time. I don't know, immediately like, oh, that's where you're crying. I have to figure it out. I have to literally look at him and study his body language and figure out what he wants, whether it's through pointing, sign language. And I ask him like, hey, what do you mean? What do you want? Like, let's take a breath before I ask him what is it that you need. So it's hard. It's hard, what I'm saying, to be honest, but it's one of those things where you're learning how to it's okay to take the long route, when it comes to that stuff. Being able to understand the root of something, especially with this type of child, is more important than trying to just to correct the emotion. Because we're told, like I said, we're told to not have emotion. And I want my kids to have emotion. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think emotion is bad. Undoing that family trauma, undoing those type of words that have been spewed from passed down to generation to generation. Being
Yeah.
able to undo that has been tough, but at the same time, it's been rewarding because now you and your child have been able to kind of develop a relationship and a safe place for him to come to, not just to the mom, but also come to the dad and say, okay, hey, this is what I'm going through,
Yeah.
or this is what I need, this is what I want, instead of feeling like he can't come to me because he knows I'm just gonna tell him to be quiet or tell him to, fix your face and all that stuff. Like, some of that's
Mhm.
not needed all the times.
Yeah. Yeah. What is so what is I guess it's a two-part question, but what's like one of his favorite things to do, like that really makes him
hmm
happy, right? And then like
hmm
what are some ways you and your son connect, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with talking at all. Like it doesn't involve talking at all.
Man, outdoors. That man loves outdoors. Outside, he likes being outside. We got him a bike, and so he loves riding his bike. One thing about kids with that type of disability or nonverbal is they don't have a sense. It's two part. Like, they have great awareness of their surroundings. At the same time, they don't develop the fear of danger or like a sensory that tells them, oh, this is not safe. That's one of the things that, to be transparent, I go through, and this is relating to him being outside, loving what he does with my family. My family thinks, oh, he's in danger, he needs to wash cars, and I tell him like, he's fine. Trust me, he's very aware of his surroundings, but at the
Yeah.
same time, he does not have sense. And this is where I come in, obviously, to being the protector. He doesn't have sense of danger. So obviously, you still got to watch him and keep an eye on him, make sure that he's not too close to an edge or anything like that. But he's not scared of anything, and that's the beautiful part about kids with disability. Sometimes is they're not scared of anything. They don't fear nothing. They will jump off a trampoline or a pool or whatever it is with no hesitation. So he loves being outside, loves riding his bike. one thing that he loves to do with me, he's learning how to play catch. And so it's funny, one of the neighbors actually donated a glove, a baby glove that actually fits his hand, and a big softball, green softball. And so at first he thought it was a hat, so he would put it on his head and ride. I'm like, it's not, it doesn't fit on your head, son. Like you gotta, it goes on your hand. And so lately we've been slowly playing sports stuff. You know, he can dribble a ball or toss the ball. One thing he does to connect with me, I feel like, is like he'll touch body part, like he'll touch my ear, nose, eyes, mouth, back to ear. He'll touch whatever up here, and for me, it's more so of him connecting. So I touch his nose back, he'll like touch my nose, I'll touch his nose back, or I'll be like ear, eyes, mouth, just for a way to build the bond, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of the two things that he definitely loves doing. Hmm.
And I definitely relate with that because my youngest, it's like a sensory thing. So right, so
Yeah.
he want to touch my arm or touch my
Hmm.
beard or something. So I
Hmm.
definitely understand that. And I was gonna, well, I guess you kind of answer that, but I was gonna ask like how you balance protecting your son but giving him that independence. And I'm assuming like you said, when he's outside, you're like, hey, I know he's good, right? Like I'm not
Yeah,
tripping on him being out.
yeah. No, with him, it's. I try to give him that space to kind of figure stuff out on his own. And honestly, I've been like this. This for me, this is my obviously first time parent raising my first kid. And but one thing about me is I've never been the type to be like, if he falls, to come rushing over and be like, oh my god, my baby. Like I've never been that way for some reason. I'll even tell my mom or his mom, like, no, no, let him get up. I don't want to come over and give any more anxiety to any more stress to him falling. And so there's been a few times where he'll ride a scooter or bike and he'll fall. And I'll observe and I'll tell him, you okay? You know, get up, you okay? And allowing him to kind of develop certain things on his own, even through that, is has been helpful. But one thing about him, he is clingy. He wants to know, as long as I'm around, he knows he's safe. So
Yeah.
it's the balance of making sure that, especially with autistic kids or slash nonverbal kids, it's important to let them know like, hey, you're safe, but at the same time, okay with stepping back and letting them do what they want to do. So I used to, and this may be small, but he would ride his bike around the neighborhood, the cul-de-sac, if you will, and I used to follow him around the cul-de-sac because you're a parent, you follow him, but
Yeah. Of course.
over
Yeah.
time, I'm like, I'm kind of tired of doing this. Like, you're fine, you're okay. I had to tell myself, like, you're fine, you're okay. So
Yeah.
now I would go out, I would stand under the garage, I would just stand there, and so he could go around like on his own. And for me, it's developing the trust that he'll be okay, but also allowing him to know that you can go as far as you want. I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? So kind of slowly, but especially as he gets older, find the balance of him understanding that he has the freedom to create and do on his own, but also understand that I'm still present. I'm still a safe place. I'm still here. But you don't have to feel like I have to be on your hip all the time. And that's something that's a struggle point for him sometimes. But at the same time, it's one of those things that eventually he'll break out of, because I'm even learning in real time how kids with disability, they tend to be clingy. Like they even when it comes to going to bed, like he does not stay in his bed the whole night. And is it okay for me? It's up and down because boy's big. He's 6 years
Yeah.
old. He's kicking me in my back all the time. And so for him to like develop those type of things, those are things that they just go through. You know what I'm saying? They're not always the regular kid who just sleep through the night in their bed. Does it happen some nights? Sure. But most nights he'll start there, and then at 2, 3 in the morning, I feel an arm or something like on my forehead like this. You know what I'm saying? So it happens. But it's part of the journey. I think all the things that we go through, I feel like normal parents with kids who don't have a disability, they go through, but for us it just takes a longer process. So but yeah,
Yeah.
that's some of the things that little things go through as far as connection point and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That's good, bro. I don't really know, but do they have, I guess, different resources, different tools, right? I'm just spitball. I have no clue if they even do this, but as far as like, man, you know what, if your child is nonverbal, will sign you up for this sign language class or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Do they have different things like that or?
There's plenty of resources, and I'll say every resource is not the same. Every resource is not the same. It can cater to different needs, different things, especially if you don't have certain things. You may have the things that you need at that point, or you may be lacking something. So, for him, he has it's called a IEP in school, where they have a one-on-one helper with the child at school. Where yes, he's in a class, but he also has that assistant, if you will, or instructional aide that is trained, a paraprofessional, for lack of better terms, to walk with that child. And through there, sometimes we have district meetings with the district, so we evaluate his process and diagnose him properly, and then from there we could go to the county and get resources, or go to the county when it comes to like finding the right therapy place, getting the right speech therapy and OT therapy. OT obviously stands for occupational. And so for those who don't know, it's two different therapy sessions. So speech therapy deals with your speech, getting you to say words, getting you to understand language and stuff like that. Occupational, though, is more dealing with how to regulate your emotions, regulation,
Yeah.
and regulating your behaviors, regulating emotions. I've been a big proponent of making sure your kid gets into occupational therapy first. A lot of times, which I guess that's how society is set up, they want to get you into speech therapy so bad, especially kids who are nonverbal. But it's like they need to be regulated before they learn how to say anything. You can't have a kid learning how to talk, but they're so wired and so overstimulated that they won't pay attention to you. So it's really, really important to get your child in occupational therapy. And hey, your kid doesn't even have to have a disability. There are ways you can sign your kids up with, of course, the proper insurance channels and stuff like that to get them in occupational therapy and speech therapy, so they could be okay with speaking or learning vocabulary and stuff like that. But for those who have that type of disability, autistic child or nonverbal, occupational therapy is like mandatory so they can be regulated. So because what happens is, another thing that we do deal with raising kids in that fashion is overstimulation. I'm sure you deal with it, even as adults, we deal with it sometimes, where we can, we're probably undiagnosed, but we deal with overstimulated. Like if a lot of stuff happening, a lot of noise, it can be a lot. And so for a child with that disability, think of it times 10 for them, where the littlest things that we may think like, oh, that's not a big deal, or the phone's ringing or something, for them it's like it may be piercing. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes too many people in one setting, that could be a lot for the child. I remember a couple weeks ago we had our family reunion, and great time, and he even had a great time. But after a certain time, a certain amount of hours, that's where it's like, all right, he starts pointing towards the parking, like, all right, it's time to go. Like it's pointing towards the car, like, all right, I did my time, I'm over it. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to monitor that. You have to pay attention to your child in that
Yeah.
fashion. Like those type of things, you have to sacrifice for yourself. Like, okay, what do you need? Sometimes not all about you. You can't be everywhere. You do what you want when your child is there, because your child can get overstimulated. Your child has needs, especially when they have a disability. So, but yeah, there are many, many resources. I have a few cousins actually who are ABAs. I forgot the full name for it, but they're ABAs, where they work with kids with autism very, very closely, even in schools and in home services as well. So there's plenty of channels you can go to. It just depends on what works for you, in that manner.
I like that, bro. I was gonna ask you because it seems like the schools a lot of times are quicker than like when you try to go through the county or wherever, however, right? And
Yeah,
so I was gonna ask you one, I guess with the county, is it I'm assuming it's a longer process, and then two, is it just for the people out there that's listening that might be dealing with this? Is this something where they have to go through their insurance, or is this something they can just literally like fill out a sheet? Like, would you happen to know? Like, they just go online.
it,
Like,
it's
how would that go?
it's one of those things where yes, you have to have some sort of insurance. It's easier that way. It sucks because it's still a long process no matter how you do it. But to shortcut the process a little bit, insurance does help. I don't know how it is where you're at, but obviously in California, it's a long long process, and it's a little bit more sometimes unnecessary steps, if you will. But for the most part, if you have insurance like Medi-Cal, which is obviously the cheapest route out here, is the quickest way to go. It can get you in the line a little bit faster. So you have the insurance, you call the provider's contact, and so there from there they set you up with different places that may work. A lot of times what they do is they give you like a default choice that they feel like, okay, we're going to send you here. But a lot of times it doesn't work because you may live 30 minutes away from the therapy place. You may, a lot of stuff can happen. And so for me, what I do usually is I go myself and look up a place suitable for my child to go to. I go to the place, I visit it and stuff like that, and make sure, hey, does this place take Medi-Cal insurance? Does this place take IEHP? Does this place take Blue Cross, Kaiser? You have to make sure that they have that, because if they do, then that way you can do it without paying anything. It just goes under the insurance. So that's super, super important, is making sure that you're not paying anything out of pocket, that the copay is available. And if they have that insurance, then that's your way of making sure you pretty much kind of get it for free. And the pay and all that stuff just goes to the insurance. And then once you get there, find the right place. I guess I can speak for myself. We've been through 3 different places so far. The third one that we're at currently has been great. They have developed a proper like child atmosphere for my child, and friendly and very family oriented and stuff like that. A lot of times if you take your kid to certain places, pay attention to how your kid reacts to the environment. Pay attention to how your kid responds to the doctors or the therapists or the counselors, stuff like that, because from there is where you can say, okay, we're gonna either continue, being here, or let's just find another place. I remember the first place that we tried, when we went there, the place felt very, very like closed off. Like it was one of those places where it's like a plaza, and in the plaza is different suites. And so you will go in, and there's one suite that is the name of the place, but then you have another suite next to it that's it's entirely different business. It's entirely different function. And sometimes for my child, I'll speak for myself, it didn't really work
Yeah.
because you have too much other stuff going on. And then the way it was designed, it just felt like it was just a weird place. And so funny enough, my son's mom actually asked a question to the front desk lady and was like, hey, what was this place before what it was today? And the lady said it used to be a psych ward. And I was
Wow.
like, oh yeah, we gotta go. We gotta get up out of here. Because and this is just me, I'm very big on environments, I'm very big on atmospheres, and I'm a Christian. So it's one of those things where you gotta pay attention to atmospheres like that. And especially if that place used to be whatever it was, it is viable to how things are, especially with your child. Your childs are feelers. Your children are more than anything. Excuse me, my headphone went out. More than anything, they're feelers. They feel when you're upset. They feel when you're mad. They can go into a place and feel any type of tension, anything like that. You have to pay attention to that. And I noticed when my child used to go for his therapy appointments, their speech therapy appointments there, he was fussy, always frustrated, always crying, always just kind of like uneasy. And maybe it doesn't have to be the therapist. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it is the building itself. And so we went to another spot, and we found a better spot, and then it works out for us. But yeah, long story short, being able to notice those things helps, especially with your kid, and being able to use that as your compass more so than just what you think. Your child can also be your compass too with what you're doing.
I like that, bro. I like that. I have two more questions for you. Two more. So well, I'm lying kind of, because the second
No,
and
you're
last
good.
question is almost a two-part question. But so whatever you visualized as a father, right? When you're like, hey, I'm gonna be a dad or whatever, right? So how has that changed for how the visualization that you had as a
Hmm.
father, right, before your son came? How has that now changed for you now in this season of fatherhood?
Oh man, I think, and this is going back to fear of failure. I think before I wanted to have everything lined up. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. By
Mm-hmm.
this age, we're gonna be here. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna get you into this. And even for myself as a dad, you want to make sure that you're established, and you have this going on, stuff like that, because you never want your child to be lacking anything. But as time goes on and you see your child grow up, And in my situation, you see your child grow up, and he's still not necessarily saying words, but he's communicating and he's, nonverbal, all that stuff. I would say for me, it has changed with a lot of grace, and now I'm more so of like, you know what? I can still do the things that I want to do and not treat this as a kryptonite, for lack of better terms. Like, this is not my kryptonite.
Yeah.
Like, my son
Yeah.
with his challenges doesn't mean it's my downside or it's my downfall. Just a little bit more vulnerable or transparent. Like, so I'm starting school. I'm finishing to get my degree next week. School starts 26th. And so, subtracting my son, when it comes to school, I hate school. Like, I it triggers me. Like, I don't like taking tests. I don't like taking quizzes. None of that. But now, this urge of being led to, okay, let me finish school. I've had that urge for a long time, and I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and knock it out. But knocking it out with my present son, being attentive to him, and so there are times where I'm like, man, how do I, how am I going to do this? Like, there's no way I'm gonna complete school and be present, with my 6-year-old son. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. But understanding that you have to simplify things in order to achieve things, especially around this part of town when it comes to being a father, and understanding that your child, don't make things so complicated to where your child becomes a burden more than a blessing. You know what I'm saying? I think too many times we as dads, we can overcomplicate things because we want things right. We want things to happen and to be done and all that stuff. But sometimes there is joy in the mess ups. There's joy in allowing things to happen the way it needs to happen without putting too much pressure on yourself. And that's where I'm at right now. I just I've gotten over the aspect of wanting things to be right or wanting myself to be right, and allowing yourself to be still a learner to your son. Learn from your son. It's not, or your daughter, whatever the case may be. Being able to learn from your child is still a thing. It's still powerful, because if you can learn from your child, then honestly, you could achieve anything. Once you start cutting off that learning aspect, once you start feeling like you know it all when it comes, because you're the parent, things start clashing. Believe it or not, things will clash. Things seen and unseen. Things will start kind of hitting a wall. So for me, I'm learning how to learn from my son, having childlike faith, and being okay with mess ups, being okay with still obtaining information even for myself. And so the fear of failure now has changed into being okay with being present and literally living day to day. Like, we try to plan so much ahead of time, and with my child, the way he is, the way God has blessed him, is literally, what can I do today? How can I achieve it?
Yeah.
Long as we able to hit our heads on the bed and then focus on the next day, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So it definitely has transformed a lot, and will
I love
continue
it,
to
bro. I
transform
love
as he
it.
gets older.
Yeah. No, I love it, bro. I love it. So, like I said, I lied before, right? So I love,
No, you're good.
this, okay. So what is one thing that you want your son, what's one thing that you want your son to, sorry, my dog keeps
You're
barking,
good.
but what's one thing that you want your son, your son to know as he gets older? Because if there's one thing you just really, really want him to
Mm,
understand, what is that? And then my second thing is when. The key word is when. I said when.
mm-hmm,
When your son breaks these chains and these labels and things like that, when he does say his first word or sentence,
mm.
what do you want that to be?
Well, the first part is what I want him to know as he gets older is, I mean, it sounds cliche from, I guess, from the faith perspective, but just for him to understand simply that he is accepted and loved by God. That, I mean, that's if anything, that is the one thing that I want to make sure that he understands and accepts, because I'm not the end all be all. I'm just a tool. I'm a vessel in the role of a father. It is my job to raise him accordingly and to make sure that he knows who ultimately his maker is. You know what I'm saying? And so being able to understand that for myself, that I'm not the law, And so every time he lays his head at night, being able to in my prayer, just ask God to watch over him, protect him. Whatever I didn't teach him, whatever I cannot teach him today, please instill in him. Whatever I cannot do, please just give it to him. And then go about my merry way. But that's one thing that I want him to understand as he gets older, is that understand that he's loved, he is accepted, and that he can do great things. I believe that he's a genius. The way he does stuff and the way his memory is sharp. Like I can say that. Like his memory is crazy. And so for me, I'm in the stage of trying to understand, like, okay, where is his niche at? Because a lot of times, and I'll say this, people with disabilities are geniuses. They are probably one of the smartest people in the world, especially if you're autistic. They whatever your thing is, it could be sports, it could be engineering, it could be whatever, but music. A lot of autistic kids develop a lot of musical senses as well. Geniuses. And so for him, I know he's a genius. I know he's smart. He uses it in his own way. But for him to understand, like, he is powerful in his own ways. He's secure as a man, and not letting his disabilities, when he becomes fully aware, like, oh, I can't talk or anything like that, for him to understand that he can still do what he set out to do without any hesitation. Now, as far as words, what's the one thing I want him to say? I don't know. You know, the corny side of me would probably be like, oh, I want him to say dad dad. But I mean,
Yeah.
even if he says pizza, like I'm fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's
Yeah.
one thing about him is, like I said, he knows what he wants, and it's like he's a great communicator, but he just can't speak. So he'll point, he'll motion, all that stuff, copy you, all that stuff. But he just can't say words. But so for me, I'm comfortable with whatever word he wants to say. And then we'll work around that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna restrict him from the language that he's
Yeah. Cool.
going to speak.
Yeah. Of course, bro. No, of
Hmm.
course, man. One, before we close out, I always make sure I give my guests their flowers, bro. So one is again, I appreciate your time. You didn't have to hop on here, and I just appreciate you just open up and um, because I know this is going to help so many other fathers as well. But also, bro, I want to encourage you, man, to continue doing what you're doing, because this is needed. I'm sure because you're going through different processes, you're seeing that there's holes in certain things too, right? And
Oh, for
so
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
believing and speaking and praying that God's going to use you, bro, to close those gaps, right? So you can help not only your son, obviously, but many people, fathers, mothers, right? Different people that are struggling with certain things or frustrated with certain things. So again, bro, I just appreciate you because again, y'all, I said it already. He's very talented, and from what I've seen from the outside, every time he's locked into whatever he does, he accomplishes
Hmm.
it. So at the end of the day, that's why I'm believing and praying, brother, that you're going to
Hmm.
be able to really do some things, not only to have your son break certain hurdles or whatever restrictions, quote unquote,
Uh-huh.
right? To be able to navigate through those things and be able to help the next person. So again, bro, I know that your son loves you so much, man. I know he's
Yeah.
thankful to have you, and God designed it that way to make sure, like, you know what, Caesar's gonna be the perfect dad for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
No, I
dope, bro. So
appreciate
I'm
it.
excited for you and I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah. I know. I appreciate it, man, and I appreciate you having me. And at the end of the day, I'm even for myself, I'm realizing in real time what I'm capable of and what I can still do. I remember, like, even before, and I'm sure you've seen the glimpses of this, but before I had my child, I was doing everything. I was podcasting, I was editing, I was marketing, I was directing, I was doing all the stuff. And so people think when you have a child, you just can't do that stuff. You gotta quit everything. And for a brief moment, yeah, you have to sacrifice a lot because now your child is here and you got to take care of that stuff and all that things. But once you realize how to balance things, and once you realize you're still capable of achieving whatever it is God has called you to do, even with your children, it changes your perspective. And so I just, my hope is that, people like you and whoever are able to still do what they're called to do without feeling restricted because you have children. They're not burdens, they're blessings. Without feeling like that's your downside or that's your downfall. They're like, no, they're not your downfall. Those are your blessings. Those can be your reasons why. You go back to, for myself, going back to creative directing, going back to content creation, going back to all this stuff, and being okay sometimes with being misunderstood. A lot of people don't realize, and I'll say this quickly, like, people don't realize my kid is so smart, but he has difficulties. Like, his sleep pattern is trash. I could say that. Like, sleep pattern sucks. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'll go to bed at a decent time, but wake up randomly at 2 a.m. on a school night and be up till 6 a.m. You know what I'm saying? But that just comes with this disability. You know what I'm saying? And this is recent. This was, at the time of this recording, this maybe happened like 2 days ago, where he woke up and did not go to sleep. Was smiling and fine, just fine, but did not go to sleep till 6 a.m. But I had to wake him up anyway because his bus leaves at 6:40. That's the type of stuff that people don't know. You know what I'm saying? What we go through as parents. How tired we are when it comes to raising kids with disability. We are tired. I'll say this right now. We're tired, y'all. We are oftentimes drained. We're oftentimes tired. We're oftentimes just need a nap. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, are we blessed? Yes. Are we grateful? Yes. And that comes with the territory. You know what I'm saying? And so, my hope for people is to understand, let it spark your curiosity.
Yeah.
Not everything is for you to
Yeah.
judge. Not everything is for you to frown upon, but maybe you can help by giving resources, help by being inquisitive, because we always like to, we hate when we hate when people feel like they can outparent us, or feel like, if that was my child. No, well, it's not your child. You know what I'm saying? we Sorry, but it's not your child. You know what I'm saying? So being able to be open to understanding, and being able to be open to being more accepting, I think that can help people along the way, no matter what you look like, no matter where you're from. If you raise kids with that type of pathway, you'd be surprised how much that helps us.
Mm. No, that's real, bro. Tell the people too, real quick, just in case, like they have questions or someone to get in contact you or whatever. Where can they follow you at or find you or whatever, wherever they can,
Oh yeah,
search you up?
yeah. So my most of my channels are Cwill Poetry, so it's spelled CWILLPOETRY. You can find me on Instagram with Cwill Poetry _. Twitter, it's the same, Cwill Poetry. Of course, you can always email me, cwillpoetry@gmail.com. And yeah, I'm open book. We can talk on there anytime. Of course, I'm always thinking of something to do. I'm into content creation, and always, having the creative directing hat that I do wear, and other projects and stuff like that. So feel free to hit me up on there, and we can chop it up all day, any day.
I love it, bro. Yeah, definitely. Y'all have questions or want to collabo with him or whatever case, definitely hit him up. He's an amazing individual, man. But with that being said, y'all, like always, you don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. I'll see you
Yes,
guys on the
sir.
next one.